Welcome to 8 Star Anime. I'm Dave the Head, and we have lost Chris Brown.
You just traded one Brown in for another one.
Yeah.
If you were expecting a reaction, you got the wrong crowd, Chief.
Deadpan's a reaction. So today, you got the little...
I do.
Skadoosh. We watched the beginning of Gundam 0080, War in the Pocket. First 3 episodes. Been wanting to do this one for a little while so that we could have Mike join us, and it's one of the few Gundams I've actually seen, and I do enjoy it a lot. Joining me today, of course, is...
Joe Gibkins' homeboy, Josh. Woo woo, good to be back, Internet.
Roger.
Mike.
So, let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
You want to do the synopsis since it's yours?
Yeah, I guess. I don't watch... I do watch this show because I do part of the editing for it, but I don't know how everything works. So, what is it? He who brings the disc does the synopsis?
Yes, if you bring the movie, you talk about the movie.
Okay.
It's like the opposite of Fight Club.
More or less.
Okay. So Gundam 0080, War in the Pocket, came out in 1989. It is an OVA, 6 episodes long. We've watched the first 3 episodes. Gist of it is that 11-year-old Alfred Izaruha, who is a student at Side 6, which is a neutral colony during Gundam's 1-year war, dreams about war, fantasizes about war, wants to be a soldier, finds it adventurous, as do pretty much all the kids in his school, except for one smart-ass little girl.
Who might actually be the wisest of them all.
Who is probably the smartest character in the entire series. And basically the series really plays... That's our camera operator. He didn't like the angle of the shot.
Sorry.
But he really learns by the end of the series, and we're only halfway home here, the harsh realities of war, and that's the premise of the thing in total. Even though Gundam creator Yoshiyuki Tomino did not actually do anything with 0080, it's one of the first Gundam productions that he didn't have a direct hand in. It really holds very, very true to his original concept for Gundam, which is don't glamorize war, don't make it some great thing to be admired. Or
it's not an adventure.
It's not an adventure. War is hell. And this, as I told Raj, because Raj has never seen this before, there is no way by the end of this that Alfred Izaruha leads a normal life. So that's the gist of it.
Yeah, I mean, the juxtaposition of these giant robots having a battle down Main Street was pretty wild in the first few episodes, because out of the 3, we're going to introduce to the characters, of course, find out what's going on.
Yeah.
I've never watched any other Gundam except this, and I do remember watching it a couple of years ago and really enjoying it. And you don't really need to know what's going on to get the full picture. Alfred's pretty much a well fleshed out character. And everyone he's running into, while they may be caricatures, they're done well.
Yes, I like that the Zeon team is they all have distinct personalities. They're not just the bad guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things I really like about War in the Pocket is you can make the argument that this is the only Universal Century series where the Zeons are the heroes. And it's one of the things I actually really dig about this miniseries is because it kind of goes to show you that in war, each side is the hero of their story. And so each side has good guys and bad guys, and as the Gundam series moves forward past the 1-year war in their timeline, you see a lot of Earth Federation characters who are the good guys of the original series as villains. You see a lot of those develop, especially in Zeta Gundam. There's a whole faction of the Earth Federation that are the villains of the series. Whereas, while in the original show, it's the Zeons are the bad guys, and there's a lot of Nazi motif and such built around them, and imagery. Here, they're not. Here, it's a group of soldiers doing their job. So
Yeah, I mean, Bernie is a Xeon, and then we do learn that Alfred's neighbor, Chris, is Earth Federation, and I would say that they're like the main characters in addition to Alfred, especially Bernie.
they are.
And I know that Chris is going to play a bigger role in the second half.
I love that when it's revealed that Chris has signed up for the army, they ask her what she does, and she says, "Oh, I'm in data entry." And
It's not a lie.
It's not like it's a very shaded truth, but it's not a lie.
Well, I mean, she's running a simulator at the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, usually we kind of talk about what did we like about it, like one scene, one concept, anything in it that you liked.
I didn't think that it was a bad part of the story, but just how Alfred does not get what he's doing is treasonous.
Yeah.
As in, like, where he's sneaking into, like, Federation mobile suit warehouses and taking pictures.
Oh, yeah. No, he just sees it as an adventure.
But here's your question mark. Is it treason? He's not a Federation citizen. He's breaking the law.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But part of...
minimum trespass.
If he was caught by the Federation, though, they would consider it.
They'd shoot him, probably, or imprison him or something.
Even on this neutral base?
They would probably imprison him or something somewhere. Yeah. But, I mean,
prison for espionage.
Yeah, but the bottom line is it's part of... It becomes a major part of the story in Disc 2, is that Side 6 is neutral ground. Mm-hmm. It's, for all intent and purpose, it's Switzerland.
Yeah.
They do not take a side. And...
No fighting there, supposedly, except for, like, the fight down Main Street.
And they actually, that's something that occurs in the original series, is they have that moment where Side 6 is such neutral territory. But they also tell you that it's neutral ground in here. You don't have to have watched anything else for Gundam to understand these ideas. And in part because this show was made 10 years after the original series ever came out. So there were people who watched this that might have never seen the original show. So,
what
about you, Roger?
I'm liking most parts of it. I enjoyed about all of it. I like the whole way that it kind of brings the war to home, more or less, where they're fighting down Main Street. They're stepping on cars. People are running around screaming. This is the first time I think Gundam's done that in a long time. That's usually space battles, usually far, far away from this homestead life, and it shows the impact of the war on the common people.
It might be the first time they've done it.
Yeah.
Well, didn't the story start on Earth?
Yes, it does. The story starts at an Arctic base on Earth, and there are containers that the Earth is trying to launch into space, and the Special Forces, which I'm surprised the dub version doesn't use the actual name of the team, but I think the subtitle version does. There's Cyclops team. That's why their logo has a C on it, a very stylized C. The Cyclops team tries to stop them, and one of their guys gets killed, which is how Bernie winds up on the team.
And that's another thing showing where the Zeons are sympathetic characters, because the guy that gets killed is the captain's son.
I think it's either the captain's son or a close friend, comrade, what have you. For me, I said this to you guys off recording. This is my favorite Gundam series. Period. Even though it's a 6-episode miniseries. There is so much that this miniseries does that was never done in Gundam prior, and if it has been done in Gundam since, it's very, very little. That is, if you noticed, most of the time the mobile suits don't blow up.
Yeah.
And that it adds a sense of realism to it, that if you watch... When a tank gets shot, a tank does not necessarily blow up.
It just stops working.
It may catch on fire.
They'll catch on fire, but it's trash. It's just sitting there as wreckage. And you see that here. There's an attention to detail and movement in the way that the mobile suits fight.
A lot more realism.
Exactly. I love that. I like the style, the actual visual style of the series, which is unlike anything Gundam had done up to that point.
Yeah.
And again, unlike anything since, because if you look at most Gundam series, I guess from Mobile Fighter G Gundam Ford,
G Gundam, which is like the exact polar opposite of realistic.
Absolutely. That series is when you start getting into really what we would think of as a typical anime look. Mm-hmm. This doesn't have that. I like the characters. I like the mobile suit designs. I like the redesigns they do to a lot of mobile suits. They really only introduce 2 completely new designs in this series, and they look like they belong. Mm. The only thing that I don't like, if y'all do dislikes, I guess we'll come back to it. But there's only one thing I don't like about this series.
You guys have already touched upon it, but my favorite is the weight of the story. It's not a cartoon for jokes and laughs. It is a. I mean, it is a cartoon, and there is silliness to it, but it has a lot of drama and weight to this. It's a war movie. It just doesn't know it yet.
No, not really.
And in the first disc.
Yeah, the war comes home in the next 3 episodes.
Yeah, definitely.
So, let's go ahead and start with your dislikes.
There's really only 2. The biggest, honest-to-goodness dislike I have is the music. I have never liked the opening theme to this series.
Yeah.
In fact, to be most accurate, I despise the opening theme to this series. It's probably my favorite series with my least favorite music. And even the interstitial music, I don't care for too much, but I will say all of the actual score creates a tone that... A lot of it in the first few episodes is a tone of innocence and joy, which if you've seen the series, you know is going to go straight to hell before all is said and done. And then the only other thing that I don't necessarily like, but the story is so good, I tend to overlook it, which is some of the characters in this show, particularly Bernie and Christina McKenzie, are probably 2 of the dumbest soldiers that either side actually has. And I say that because Chris McKenzie is an Earth Federal Forces mobile suit pilot. Mm-hmm. At one point, after she waylays Bernie Wiseman with a baseball bat, and Bernie and Al are in her home with her family, Al is wearing a Xeon Special Forces unit insignia and rank patch
just right here on his shirt,
right,
and he's proud of it too.
Trying to hide it. And you have Bernie in a Xeon Army bomber jacket.
Yeah,
and it never seemingly occurs to her as an Earth Federal Forces officer that these folks might work for the Xeon in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And the flip side of that is Bernie, aside from the fact that he's not smart enough to get the crap off of Al before they walk into these situations, or ditch the bomber jacket that very clearly says Army on it and has a patch.
Especially since he's in the middle of a clandestine mission.
Yeah.
But he also got hit by the baseball bat like 2 seconds before this, so he didn't really have a lot
he shouldn't have been wearing it in the first place.
That's true.
That might be why he got hit with the baseball bat.
More than likely.
But that would be giving Christina more credit than she deserves at this point in the story.
Apparently Al's like saying that he's my brother, he's cool.
Yeah.
So
and
she lost everything over.
And as as Al's mom is leaving their house, here sits Bernie outside on a stakeout, looks directly at her car as it leaves and her house with the headlights making him very visible. She doesn't sit there and think, why is this strange man in a strange car staring at me in my house? And he doesn't think to look in some other direction or play asleep or something.
Or just not be visible. Right?
Yeah, or just not be visible.
He's not very good at his job of doing espionage.
Yeah.
Well, what about you?
Different time, different face.
Yep.
And then, I guess in the 80s you just drive away. It's like, oh, there's a guy in the car. Yeah,
whatever. But like I said, the rest of it's so good, I forgive that crap.
Yeah. I like everything. The kid kind of comes off as annoying sometimes, but I think we're actually supposed to see this whole world through his eyes, more or less. So it's like, it's an adventure. There's no sides 1 versus side 2 in a war. This is just all him learning new stuff, and he's like, ooh, wow, that's pretty cool. And I don't have really a whole lot of dislikes, but the animation to me looks like kind of an America company animation, and it reminds me of actually Yorosu Kodoji animation with the eyes, the way the eyes are drawn and the hairstyles. So I just want to throw that in there. But I like everything about it so far, and I've never seen it before, so it's all new to me.
I kind of already got into what I didn't like about it, but no, I mean overall, what I liked about it was just that the look of it, the animation holds up really well for an anime that came out like so many years ago.
I mean, the show is 29 years old now.
Yeah.
The mobile suits look fantastic. The character designs look vibrant and really, really good.
I hate Alfred. Just flat out.
So much.
There's a part of me that almost figures you're supposed to look at him and see an annoying brat.
Oh,
Yeah.
he is so... I don't even want to use the word precocious because precocious still has a redeeming quality. He is a pain in the ass. I mean, first of all, he gets in a fight with a girl at like 8. That's terrible. That's just terrible.
But at least they
Well,
teach
to be
you
fair, he started it because she kicked his boy in the nuts.
Well, he grabbed her and he should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like the
They were
kid.
arguing about mobile suits.
He's running around, chasing people, getting shot. He has no sympathy for anyone else suffering. And that was like the opening scene. I get that they're soldiers, but they come into this base, they're blowing everything up, and then one dude gets shot, and all of a sudden everybody's so heartbroken. And I'm like, you just killed 35 other people. I think.
Yeah, but not their people.
I get that, but I think once you've entered that world, I think you would be a little bit more stoic.
It's kind of a trope of Gundam where the manual over goes, "Whoa!"
At least once. It
It's
has
just
to be
to
at
me,
least
it
once per
felt
Gundam
so
show.
cheesy.
It does to a point, but I think it's supposed to show that even though these are supposed to be your, hard as nails,
Special
soldiers,
forces.
special forces guys, that there is a level of humanity to them.
Which
So
They're not
is
wholly unlikable.
interesting because in like Gundam, you see like the higher ups in the Zeon hierarchy where they basically have very little compassion for the soldiers that die.
Yep.
I mean, this is it's another thing I do like about this is that this, and it will happen more in the second half, this series does a really good job of showing the, I guess, almost class difference between here's command and here's the
Enlisted.
feet on the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
And it kind of goes to show you that, there's a certain helplessness to being the dude that's boots on ground, but you can still make a difference in some way, even if you're in that position.
I just hate
Boots on the
Alfred.
ground will have more brotherhood than the higher ups because the higher ups are just a number,
Well, it's politics.
more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't really do the scoring with the VASC anymore. We do talk about visuals, audio, and stuff like that. So since there's 4 of us and there's 4 departments, who wants visuals?
Yeah, I mean,
Go for it. I mean,
Like
you commented on it.
Yeah, I mean, it like Roger said, stylistically, it does look like a show from that era. But I mean, even that the mobile suits look fantastic. They took usually, I hated the look of the aquatic Zeon suits from the original Gundam.
Oh, yeah.
They look like doo-doo. They were bad. And this one, they actually look like fairly threatening.
Yeah.
I mean, they look badass in a mate, which is especially because they're being used for like a covert raid.
Yeah.
Well, since you're speaking of that, the suits that the Federation have during that scene
Are
they
they-
not suits designed for combat?
No, they are,
They're
but
like
so
the lowest rung you can get.
yeah, in the 1 Year War storyline for Gundam, the Federation has not had mobile suits up until the war. So the Gundam itself that Amuro Ray pilots in the original series and movie trilogy, that was the prototype. And that's the one where everything is top of the line, best of the best of the best.
Because I didn't know if maybe
And
these were just
I think that's what
suits
they're
that they
building.
used to move
No.
things
No,
with.
The suits you see here are called GMs, which, depending on who you ask and which book you read, either means Gundam mass-produced or General mass-produced. But basically, it's a really dumbed-down mass-produced version of the Gundam, where like here's the really nice prototype that we put lots of money into. Now here's the one that was paid for by the lowest bidder.
Not to mention, like a GM compared to a Gundam, like a GM generally is considerably handles much more clumsily than a Gundam does.
It's the difference between a Pinto and a Cadillac.
So, a biplane and a jet fighter.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Well, you want to take audio?
Sure. I like the audio. We watched the English dub. All of this English dub was pretty well done. I didn't mind. I like the score. I wasn't crazy about the music myself. I think the music's more childlike to show like an overall childlike zen of this whole first couple episodes, because we're our protagonist is like a little child, so we're pretty much seeing this whole world from his view. So, but I pretty much like all the audio. Everything's firing pretty well. Score's fine. Voices are good.
Well, you made me think of something. Usually, a lot of times when we watch anime, we end up learning that the male children are voiced by female voice actresses. Do you think that this one was one of those, or do you think they got?
Yeah, I could see. I could definitely see a female voice actor doing it.
I know the Japanese cast it is,
because it sounded pretty good.
Yeah.
It sounds like a kid. Usually, sometimes you can hear and you're like, "Oh, that's not a kid. That's just some adult playing it." But
yeah, sometimes it sounds like a kid, and sometimes it just sounds like someone trying to be a kid. And so,
yeah, this one felt really natural.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take story so that you can do entertainment value. The story-wise, I think is, in my opinion, the strength of this. The visuals are a little throwback, so if you like them, if you like that late 80s style or classic anime style, if I feel like it is, you're going to love it. And if it's a pain in the neck, then you're not going to love it. The audio did its job, but the story, I think, is where it really shines. It's not a long episodic thing with filler. This is a
meat and potatoes.
A, B, C. It's going through a tale, and it's going to be worth it. This beginning one, even if it's an intro, even if you want to look at it that way, it's still an entertaining intro. There's some gravitas going on, but there's also entertainment and silliness. So,
will he pass his classes? We don't know.
Actually, signs point to probably not.
Signs point to probably not. Mr. C- over there.
Yes, Mom.
So.
Does he pass his classes? We don't know. We don't care.
Kind of surprised the school didn't get blown up yet. But there's always disc number 2.
Yes.
So go ahead and take entertainment.
Entertainment.
Or enjoyment.
Or enjoyment. Like I said, it's my favorite. To me, this is kind of like all things put together. It's, you look at it and yes, you can tell it was made in the 1980s, but at the same time, it, to me, is like a lot of the classic anime films of the 1980s. I'm going to commit some heresy here for a second. It actually reminds me vaguely of some of the older Miyazaki movies where you watch them today and visually they are as good today as they were then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how this feels to me, especially with the mecha designs. There are shows that come out now that don't have mecha designs this good. The music is what it is, but the voice acting is on point, and the story, everything together just brings Tomino's original vision for Gundam to the surface, because this was in a lot of ways a grand experiment. From 1979 all the way up until the end of Victory Gundam, Yoshiyuki Tomino's hands were on every Gundam series that came out, whether it was a movie, a television show, whatever. And in the late 80s and into the 90s, they decided to let's see what it looks like in the hands of other people and let them play in the sandbox. And this one does a very good job at that, because Tomino always wanted two things. He wanted realism and he wanted war to be war. And that's what this delivers. And the idea of telling the story of Gundam through a child's eyes is not new. Most people seem to forget that Amuro Ray in the original series is a child. He is a teenager that pilots the Gundam.
Whole lot of child pilots in Gundam.
Yeah, most of the crew of the White Base are kids by every legal definition of the term. But here it's the first time we see someone who is truly an innocent child. All of those characters were cadets or somehow related to the
military
military.
trained.
Here, it's a kid who is ignorant and innocent and doesn't know any better.
Well, yeah,
And-
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You can tell by his actions.
Yeah. And so as a result, it just puts so much gravity behind this story, and it's if you run them and you watch this and you come out saying anything other than "damn, that was a good story,"
God damn, that was good.
yeah, god damn, that was good. He's been waiting the entire episode. to
I have
crack.
been.
And although we were watching it, then I question a lot because it really is just that.
I think this story would be so good that you could take it out of Gundam and put it in a different.
In anything, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You
you
could.
could tell this story in a World War II setting. You could
could.
tell it almost any other setting.
And it still worked because it's
Yeah.
that good of a story.
You could tell this in any real world setting.
Yeah.
You could tell this in
Like
real-
new sci-fi.
They've
You
probably
can
done
tell
that. I
sci-fi.
think there's probably been movies that are kind of akin to this. Like I think The Boy with the Striped Pajamas or something like that was probably close
Although
to
there was an
this.
'80s movie called Ruskies where a Russian sub basically came up, like off the coast of Maine, and it was basically there was a group of kids that basically developed a relationship with the Russian sub
Yeah.
crew that was in the sub.
There's
Cool.
I mean, realistically, they have told this story in Star Trek. Because if you stop and think about it, Deep Space Nine, this is Nog's story before Nog goes to war and gets his leg shot off. Spoilers. That's spoilers for shows 20 years old. So I mean,
Sorry, not sorry.
yeah. I mean, you can tell this story in so many different settings. That's how good it is, and just the fact that it's Gundam.
It's an icing on
better.
some people's cake.
It's an icing
Yeah.
on some people's cake, but given that you're telling this story in a setting that's tailor-made to tell it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you have it for 8-Star Anime. Doing things a little odd and different today, but we got a full house, and looking forward to disc number 2. If you have any comments, any suggestions for anime, as always, leave a comment down below. We would love to hear it. We did Kaijo, so nothing's off the table. And we'll see you on the next one.